Hey everybody, this is John at the top of the episode. I wanted to do a quick disclaimer before we get started. The views represented here are our views and our views alone. They do not represent that of our employers. To that end, please do not try and find our employers either. Thanks.
Hello, and welcome to Seedpod, a podcast about the natural world. My name is Calvin.
I'm AJ.
And I'm John, and we still haven't figured out how to do introductions. And we have a guest!
We have a
Hello,
guest.
I'm Marissa.
Marissa, what's your specialty?
I am a historian, and I work on animal history. And I'm specifically working on the history of medieval hog executions at the moment.
Okay.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
The most unique dissertation thing that I've heard in a while. So
It's real fun to write, so...
Well, we're going to talk about that in a second. But before we do that, Marissa, you need to tell us why you're here. So tell us about your relationship with the natural world.
Oh, okay. So, animal historian. This is the niche within history that I occupy. I bounced around for a bunch of times, or a bunch of different types of history, and eventually landed with the environmental historians. They're great. I love their conferences because everybody just pulls out the nice flannel, which is exactly the speed I want from a conference.
Hey, that's
Hell
the
yeah.
most natural resource conference.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yep.
And I also I spend a lot of time around animals and out doing outdoorsy things. Big camper. Really love the Boundary Waters in Minnesota. Spent a lot of time there, both as a kid and recently. But mostly, I just look at animals as a historian, and I'm really interested in the way that history is made when animals and humans are approaching an experience and coming away with very, very different conclusions or goals, where humans are applying meaning to a thing that has a totally different meaning for animals.
Now, Marissa, I just want you to know that you have followed the script exactly. In the script notes, as AJ can see, John didn't read the script notes, but the script notes says, Marissa... I have you down. It says IDK, something of Minnesota, working inside, not being as cool as us. Question.
Yeah, 100%. Because I have to work inside most of the time.
Yeah. Yep. So you've actually, in fact, nailed the script. So I'm glad that glad you're reading the script. You're reading along with us. So that's good. That's good. Okay. So now for our second very important question for our guests. So tell us one, just to help us understand your relationship with the natural world. And our listeners understand your relationship with the natural world. Tell us one powerful memory that you have with the natural world, or maybe a place that you like, something like that.
Okay, so I'm definitely going to go back to the Boundary Waters for this, because the Boundary Waters is the best.
Now, are we talking Boundary Waters proper or Gunflint Trail? What are we talking?
Both.
Okay, I love the Gunflint.
Yeah, so my history of this has to do with the fact that my parents... before they had me, spent a lot of time running groups of high schoolers and middle schoolers into the Boundary Waters to do science experiments. So...
On the students?
Yeah, well, no, the students did the... I mean, in some ways, it is also
And then just leaving them there,
yeah,
presumably?
Yeah. I mean...
It's called... That's inspired the book Hatchet.
Someone has to learn how to... that they need to keep toothpaste out of the tent the hard way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Ooh,
Yep.
yep, yeah,
This
yeah.
is true.
So I just have a lot of really cool memories of being up in that space and going foraging for morels with my dad and doing a lot of canoeing, being able to kind of sort of sneak up on a moose, but from a reasonable distance because you don't actually want to make a moose upset in any way,
never.
shape, or form.
Never want to do that.
Getting chased by a loon, all that fun stuff.
Oh, I love those. Now, Marissa, I as a former boundary, well, I was actually more of a Quetico guide, but as a former guide, I do need to test your canoeing knowledge. How many feet are there in a rock?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know that at all.
What are your opinions about Grand Portage?
I've never done it.
Oh, you've never done Grand Portage?
No,
That's a good time.
but I
Grand Portage is a fun time.
do appreciate a good portage. I recently, in the last couple of years, took a bunch of friends to the Boundary Waters for the first time, and watching them all figure out that they needed to actually carry the canoes on their backs rather than doing it sidearm was very, very funny.
Yep, that's true. Now, were you guys port? So, just listener, in case you are not a canoe person, a rod is a really old French measurement. Every portages, if you're American, you call them portages, but cool people call them portages because of the voyageurs. Portages are measured in rods because they were first laid out by the voyageurs, which were French fur traders, and there are, as we all know, 16.5 feet to a rod.
Yeah, I never would have gotten that right, even if I'd guessed.
And then Grand Portage is like a 9-mile portage from the Boundary Waters to Lake Superior.
Yes, and it's
Fun time.
very cool
It's a
as
fun
far as I've heard. I've never done it, but it is on
I've done it.
on the list of things that I'd like to do at some point in my life.
I've done it with a Lumacraft.
I grew up
What
with
now?
an Illumicraft. So yeah.
So Illumicrafts, I think that they were made like by Boeing or one of those companies. They are an all aluminum canoe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
weigh a
we had
lot.
one growing up. Yeah, they're heavy
They
as
weigh
fuck.
so much, but you can smash them into rocks all you want.
Oh yeah, they're just unbreakable. But they were made. I think if I'm remembering the story right, they were made by one of the aircraft companies as a way for their new assemblers to get good working with aluminum and riveting, because it's just a bunch of aluminum riveted together.
Yeah.
They're great.
Gotcha.
Unbreakable sons of bitches, the Illumicrafts.
I
Heavy
wonder.
though.
I'm back to rods though. Why don't we use rods at all in forestry? Like they go into chains evenly.
Well, because rods are French, and we base everything off the English system.
A rod
four-
is a
Four
saw
rods
log,
is a
basically.
chain.
Ah, okay. Well, you know what? Hey, 4 rods is a chain. And
Four
I don't
rods is a
care.
chain.
What do you want to do? What do you want to do with that?
I don't know.
I'm going.
I feel like we
paces
should
to
use it for
change.
something.
Paces to change. But
Be
hey,
the
running
change you
joke is
wanna
we
see.
never AJ, you have
Yeah.
to remember the running joke. We will never discuss a chain.
This is true.
We can never
This is
discuss
true.
a chain.
It's just it's fine. It's
Don't
fine.
worry
It's
about
a
it.
mysterious.
Listen, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. Holy shit. Sorry, what I was thinking about was wrong with the history of the Lumacrafts. They are not that.
Oh.
They are not. They were not initially built. That was a different canoe company. Lumacrafts were. No, they were built by Bombardier Recreational Products.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Okay.
planes.
Yeah.
And that's related to Boeing, I think.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think.
I
I
don't
mean,
know. Who
Boeing
cares?
eventually bought everything.
It's a
They bought
Canadian. No,
everything,
sorry.
so.
Bombardier Recreational is a Canadian thing. Shit. Goddamn Canucks took it
John,
from
cut
us.
all this.
Oh no,
Yeah,
we're
cut
wrong
this.
about our canoe origins, guys. Oh no.
Shit. Oh my god.
Okay.
Okay.
Try to focus a little bit.
Yeah, I have to finish cleaning the kitchen up and then go to bed. Okay, so so that is your, excuse me. So your relationship with the natural world involves mostly recreating in it. Excuse me, mostly recreating with it, but also like thinking about it from a scholarly perspective as well.
Yeah, I would say that half of my battle as a historian is trying to get other historians to take like the natural world seriously as a historical actor. But it is like
Yeah.
it-
So I will say, Marissa, I've used. You're one of the first people I think that said it, and my knowledge is like, yeah, no, we are a part of nature as well. We're not as distinct from it. Like, I don't know. A lot of people have been saying, oh, yeah, like they're two separate things, and you're one of the first people that I know that started saying like, hey, no, this is that we're a part of it, but also like it's its own. It's not. It doesn't have agency, but it sort of does basically. I don't know if that's the correct way to put it.
It's. I think it's fairly common, at least. You know, not super common, but like you can find people in our side of things, on the natural resources side, that are like, yeah, humans are part of the natural world as well. Like that's not super hard to find that opinion or take out there, but the flip side of that, that acknowledgement that the natural world and in all of this is a fundamental part of our history and how history has been shaped over the years. I think that's much rarer to find. And yeah, you're like one of the first people I've heard kind of make that case.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such an important piece of the puzzle. Like, as a historian, I feel like one of the things that we're constantly trying to deal with when we're talking with other people is the so what question. Like, so what about your research at all? I get that a lot, specifically with mine for some reason. Right? And here's my thing, is that if we're not taking these things into account, we necessarily have an imprecise picture of the historical past. If you're thinking of the past and you're thinking of just the oodles of non-human animals that are interacting with humans here and there, or the ways that non-human animals have shaped human history, if you're thinking of them as set dressing, you're not understanding history.
Yeah, makes sense. And also, I mean, it's also like when we picture in our mind or whatever, we learn about a historical thing that happened or whatever, and we have this mental image that we construct based on our assumptions about what things were like back then. And especially with the natural world, I think we kind of tend to just like, oh, it probably looked much like it did now, right? Like, if you think of, Calvin, picture a forest in 1600.
Can't. I literally can't.
Are you putting chestnuts in there? Like
what is certainly not. I've never seen a big chestnut tree.
What does that look like? I don't fucking know.
Literally can't. I literally can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. So I have colleagues that work on all kinds of cool stuff, and one of them has done a lot of work on sort of the way that we think about forests, and like we give forests sort of these ethnic identities where we're like, oh, the forest is Germanic, and so we need to make forests look like they're German in certain parts of the world.
Oh, we have encountered that.
Yeah. So like, you can really put a lot of like cultural stuff into talking about the natural world and the way that humans shape the natural world, but also you can do cool stuff like look at how mosquitoes have shaped the way that humans have like worked all the way throughout time. Like mosquitoes have really fucked us up a whole bunch of times, and they get us to do all kinds of things.
Marissa, you are spoiling one of our upcoming episodes. We're going to have an entomologist who will be talking about vector-borne diseases and the Napoleonic War.
Ooh.
Specifically how Napoleon lost Haiti because of vector-borne diseases. But that is a later episode that will be coming up. I think it's probably going to be the next one after this or in 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that.
Yes. So
I just had a brain moment, like, of genius that is terrible.
A brain moment of genius.
Okay. Right? I've been awake for a very long time.
I know. I'm sorry. It was just a good one.
Okay, so no, remember the old the like Soviet ethnicity paper poster thing? We need to make one of those except for like the ethnicities of forests.
Yes.
Okay, I'm writing this down. Hang on.
It's just gonna be tree.
Gotta make this. Like I love a good swarthy forest.
I'm hoping we can work mustaches in here somehow.
Well, I always say that the Norway spruce is a depressed tree because Norway is a depressed country.
And the branches are droopy too.
They're very
That's why it's a
like
depressed
Eeyore.
tree.
Yeah.
That's why it's a depressed tree. It looks depressed. Norway's a depressed country. Yeah, it has depressed trees.
Before we get too far away from talking about history stuff, I do want to say that I can't remember which one of you said this, but one of you said this once, and it's worked its way into my dissertation, which is the idea that foresters and historians think on the same time scale.
That was me.
Yeah.
I swear to God, it was me.
Because like that has stuck with me so much.
John.
Where it's like, when I'm thinking about how anything, like I have a really hard time thinking about recent events and then going like, okay, but the 1700s aren't recent? Are you sure? Because like I can see this and this and this.
Like they are.
Like, yeah, it seems like they are.
I got trees from 1850 in my back. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
No, that's so cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that
makes me
is
happy.
that
Because it's true.
It's so true. Like time is relative, as we all know. But like the way that we're thinking about time scales and the way that we're thinking about the way that history progresses, mountain history is very, very long.
Yes.
Yes.
Forests. Yeah. One thing that we've discussed kind of frequently, we're going to do a whole episode of chestnut blight. But, this is the first generation of forest that we're seeing in the United States without chestnut. First generation in 8,000 years.
Yeah, that's wild.
So, yeah. Yep. And we've also complicated that in a number of ways, but that's a later conversation for a later episode. Okay. Moving on. We're gonna try to find some speed with this podcast today, which is something we don't do well.
No.
So we're shooting for 2 hours.
Oh Christ. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Woo, baby.
We can come back and have a longer discussion about that. There we go. That's what's gonna take 2 hours. We can have a longer discussion about, historiography and all that kind of fun stuff.
I would love that, but probably
that
not
will
today.
be a later conversation for a later day.
Yeah.
Because now is time for our Forest Minute. So, the good Hogder. Hogter. Yep, I got there.
Uh-huh.
Sure.
It's the combination of hog and doctor. Hogder.
I like it.
Yo, no, I figured that out.
Yep. Okay. No, it worked out, trust me. And everyone at home is laughing. They're finding it humorous. It's
Nailed
going
it.
great. Yep. So, now it's time for our Forest Minute, where we talk about a neat or silly thing that happened to us in the out of doors this week. AJ, what is your Forest Minute?
Mine. I wasn't prepared to go first. I never go first.
Alphabetically, you have to go first.
This is the first time we've done it that way.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm pretty happy. Today was probably, hopefully, unless something goes wrong, my last quail covey call survey thing. So no more stupid early mornings after this.
Did you see any boids?
We listen for them. It's a pre-dawn survey, so we don't see them.
Did you hear them?
Actually, no. Today, weirdly,
that's stupid.
I was on a spot that usually gets, I usually get like 3 or 4 coveys there, but this morning they were not calling, and I don't know why. Maybe it was too cold for them.
And for our non-southern upland game hunters, what is a covey?
A covey. So a covey is a group of quail, bobwhite quail. They group up in the winter for warmth and predator protection from predators, more eyes on the horizon, that sort of thing. The rest of the year they're all off singles and doubles and stuff, but in the winter they group up and they form a covey. And that's typically, if you ever see like old paintings, or if you hear people like talking about quail hunting, they're hunting coveys. So you get a dog, runs up, busts the covey, they all fly, and then you shoot them. It's very silly. I don't really like quail hunting, but whatever. A lot of people love it. But yeah, so last surveys this morning, hopefully, knock on wood. And then tomorrow I get to go do some site prep burning. So yay.
Nice.
Fun times.
AJ has also been reading the notes, as you will see in the notes. AJ, that's great. Much like Sherman, you are burning your way across Georgia. John, next question. Same question.
This week has been not 2 weeks really, has been really rough. Like I said in the pre-work chat, we've been trying to push our way through a whole bunch of forest timber stand improvement, releasing oaks from competition sort of thing. That's been taking up my weekends. My day job has been frustrating. Just grinding away at some invasive work, and then some back-end work has just been kind of blech. But this is the first day of fall tree planting, and we got 3 acres of really surprisingly shitty agricultural ground converted away from ag and into trees. So that's nice. And it was all oaks. I will say that much. There wasn't a walnut or a maple or anything else in there. It was just all native Iowa oaks. So that was nice.
That's fun.
But
Nice.
yeah, it was a pretty low key day finally. So it was good.
Okay. So my Forest Minute is not going to be this is going to be a silly Forest Minute. This is actually not going to take place in a forest. Today I was doing some stuff. I got a really last-minute hustle email from a television producer. They needed me to come in and do an interview about chronic wasting disease, and I was like, man, I love chronic wasting disease. Of course I'm coming to talk about chronic wasting disease. No one asked me about this, so I went 20 minutes to the station. I got there. They asked me 2 questions about chronic wasting disease, and one of them is, why is the Game Commission in charge of removing dead deer from the side of the road? What? The interview took all of 2 minutes, and then I left. And I was like,
awesome.
Okay.
Huh.
What?
Incredible.
What were they
Okay.
trying to? What were they trying to do?
The story was about dead deer in the side of the road, and who picks them up, and who's responsible for them.
Huh. There's something in here about the death of local journalism, unfortunately, or something like that. I don't know what it is, but
I think this
there's
was an
something
example of local journalism. I don't know. I don't know. But in case you're wondering, the Game Commission picks up the dead deer because they use dead deer to sample for chronic wasting disease.
That seems reasonable.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a very random sample, and it's
Mm-hmm.
cheap, and it does the public good. So, yeah, that's why the Game Commission does it. You can't be more random in sampling than roadkill.
That's true.
Yeah, fair.
You know, hunters have biases. There's biases in tag allocations, etc. Roadkill, everybody gets killed by cars.
Yeah.
Everybody gets killed
Yeah.
by cars. Fun fact: roadkill is a valid way to survey for endangered animals. It's one of the ways that we can tell Sam squanches are not real.
Because
You
someone would have hit
Oh.
one by now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone would have hit
Yep.
one by now.
Yeah.
Same with cougars in the Northeast. Cougars love getting hit by cars. The
Oh.
the Florida Panther has
Florida Panther, they get clocked all the time.
like 20, depending on the year, 15 to 25% of that population gets hit by cars.
Jesus Christ.
And they
Depressing
have
as all fuck.
fences and lights to
Right.
keep them from getting run over, and them boys get run over nonstop.
Good Lord.
There are stories of cats getting hit, going into wildlife rehabilitators, getting released, and then getting hit the same
and then
day.
Of
immediately
course.
getting hit again.
Yeah.
Guys, I think the cars are actually the problem.
They might be.
Well, yeah. When the cougars, they don't do fire. When they get scared, they just like freeze up, and that's a bad call when you're on a highway.
Yeah.
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 And so that's why they just get run over.
Oh.
Yep.
That made me
All right.
depressed.
Especially,
Wonderful.
I mean, let's be like the Florida drivers too.
Yeah.
Come on.
In the Everglades, yeah. Come on. If you're sober driving at night in the Everglades, come on now. All right, good Dr. Hog. What is your force minute?
Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit esoteric with this. So, one, my
Hell
big
yeah.
one is that it started snowing this week, and I love snow so much, so I'm really excited to be obnoxious for the rest of the winter when everyone else is complaining
Hell
about
yeah.
how cold it is, and I'm like, I spent all day outside. It was great.
My students hated
I
the snow.
love that energy. You just telling everyone else why they're wrong about not liking
Right?
snow.
It's so good. Snow is so good. You can do so many things in it, and it's great, and winter camping is delightful, and, like, yeah, go be in snow.
That's actually wrong.
Winter
Camping sucks.
But I like it. It's so nice.
I've done sled dogs. I do not like them.
You can make yourself a nice Quincy and just take a nap.
Sure. Okay. Anyway, back to the
Okay,
snow.
so that's the snow one. But my actual favorite forest minute is that so I have a 3-year-old, and my 3-year-old is usually biked to their school by my spouse, and sees a lot of critters on the way to school because of this. And while other children have imaginary friends, my child has an imaginary taxonomy. And so every day we get updates on the golden fungus deer, and lately they've also added the cardinal bat. So I'm getting a lot of information about these creatures, including their not their mating habitats, but like when they are habits, but like when they give birth and their preferred habitats and the seasons that they like the best and what they eat, and that's been pretty great and has shown me that we were correct to start camping with the child when they were like 6 months old.
Marissa,
Nice.
I have unfortunate news for you, which is you have raised a nerd.
Yeah, that was inevitable.
Oh, it's adorable, though.
It's so
That's
good.
cute as hell.
So yeah,
cute
that's
as
not
hell.
really a forest minute because again historian.
No, it
but,
is.
you know, get
No, I think it is. It's I vote that it is.
I'm going to say, once again, referring to the notes, it says, your force minute is I work inside and don't go outside because I'm a nerd.
yeah,
So,
yeah, pretty much.
you have, in fact, hit the notes. So good job.
I'm really good at this.
Excellent. You're doing great.
You're better at podcasting than we are.
Hey now. hey now. That might hurt if it wasn't so true.
No, that is cute as hell, but also like a really cool imagination.
Right?
Sorry,
Right?
I just want to say that I liked it. Better than, and also the fact that you can bike your kid to school. I am so envious of that, because that is not in the cards for us at the moment, unfortunately.
Okay. Enough about cute family time. We are getting back
I'm
into
sorry.
podcasting. I am the podcast demon. Okay, that's wonderful. Now is time for our second segment of the episode, which is invasive species of the week. Woo, woo, woo.
Boo.
Boo hiss.
All right. This week we're going a little bit funky with it. Our invasive species of the week is the mute swan, Cygnus olar. Fun fact about its scientific name: that is swan, as Cygnus is a Latin derivation from the Greek word for swan, and olar is Latin for swan.
Huh.
So it's swan.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
I like it.
Yep. The mute swans are the white swans with the orange faces. They are the prototypical swan.
Oh. Why was I thinking of something else?
Well, there are a couple of native swans I'm going to discuss in a second, but we'll get there. You hold on to that. So I've actually seen mute swans in their native habitat in Sweden, in a bog. Well, I guess it was a swamp in far northern Sweden, up near Umeå. Very large birds. They can weigh up to like 20 plus pounds, like almost 30 pounds. So very large birds. They're very white, and they have an orange face and a notably long and curving neck. I know they're called mute swans. They do vocalize, just they don't do like a ton of vocalization. So the mute is not a really good name for that. So this bird is native to Eurasia. It's got some really expansive populations. It goes from the UK to Ireland, the Urals, Central Asia, and as far east as China. There are even populations that overwinter near the Persian Gulf. So, very expansive species. Now, as an invasive species, it has been introduced into North America as well as Oceania. Anyone want to guess why it was introduced?
Was it for hunting?
Oh, for hunting.
No.
What?
Damn, it's always
pretty.
for hunting.
No.
No, it's looked pretty. It has to be looked pretty.
Exactly. It's for
ornamentals?
ornamental purposes. Yep. Just like peafowl or peacocks. This is as an ornamental species. So they were introduced in the late 1800s as an ornamental.
I was just about
and
to
have
ask.
Since escaped.
I was just about to ask if this was the 19th century when everything stupid happened.
Yeah. Look. All right.
I don't know that we can say everything stupid happened back then. There's lots of other stupid stuff that's happened since then.
We've never stopped being stupid.
And continues.
The Victorians ruined everything in so many ways, and I'll die on that hill.
Oh yeah, no, Marissa, you clearly haven't listened to the podcast much because our current stance is the English are always wrong, and you should never let an English person near natural resources and/or natural resource management.
Yeah.
Or
I'm a little bit
anything.
squishier on the subject, but yes, also yes.
John's like, in the right scenario, I'll let a Brit near natural resources.
It depends. It depends on the one and the resource. Anyways.
They're like trees. The right Brit in the right place.
Yeah.
Broadly shouldn't be trusted.
At the right amount, at the right densities.
Well managed. Yeah.
Well managed British population.
I will say well managed English has never yet been tried. Return English to its rightful owners, the Picts.
I'm a big Welsh guy myself. Things of this nature. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, getting back to swans. So they were introduced for ornamental purposes and have escaped. They are actually protected in a number of states, and you can still own and breed swans with the correct permits, which is, I can't express this enough, incredibly dumb. So current estimates are that there are at least 20,000 swans in North America, mostly on the East Coast with scattered populations mostly on the East Coast and the Lake States with scattered populations across the Intermountain West and the Pacific Northwest. I've also seen swans in Michigan, especially in the lower peninsula. There is a big population that's going down, though. So again, these are very large birds. and they are, as one would expect, an aquatic bird. They're very territorial and have been known to attack a large number and variety of critters, everything from other birds, particularly our native swans like the trumpeter swan and Arctic swan. They've also been known and will frequently attack humans, especially if you get near them when they're on land. They'll get after you. They'll hiss. They'll attack you. They are aggressive. These critters are omnivores, so they eat basically everything they can get their faces on. That's just one thing that people tend not to appreciate about birds. It's very energetically expensive to be a bird, and so most birds will eat anything they can find. So swans prey on everything from aquatic plants to crayfish to fish. They'll eat anything, bread, basically anything they can find. One fun fact about swans in North America: a study out of Minnesota found that an adult swan is capable of ripping out 20 pounds of aquatic vegetation a day.
That's so much.
That's a lot.
So much.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's not to say they're eating all of that; they're just ripping it out. They
Just for the shits? Just like
Well,
for the love of the game?
Everybody's got to have a hobby.
I guess even swans.
They're also going through it to find macro and micro invertebrates that are tastier than aquatic veg. So, they eat some of the veg, but also are eating things that are on the veg or hiding under the veg. So, like I said,
even if that's just wet weight
Yep.
and not dry weight, that's still a shitload.
They're also very fecund. Current estimates are they expand their population by roughly 10% a year, which is pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good
for
for a large bird.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's
I mean,
a lot
again,
of
this is a
birds.
30-pound bird. Like that's a good. That's bigger than most turkeys are walking around. So that's pretty good size. Unfortunately, they're protected in most states. So most states do not have a management plan for swans. That's because of the cultural hang-up around swans, with them being it's a pretty bird. And then there are also concerns. I think this is a really unfounded concern. But if mute swans were to be hunted, there are concerns about native swans like trumpeter and Arctic swans accidentally being taken in a hunt. I don't think that's too valid of a concern, considering trumpeter and Arctic swans are mostly migratory, and they look pretty different than mute swans.
Yeah, don't trumpeters have the black beaks?
Yep.
I don't know, Calvin. Have you ever gone dove hunting?
Yeah, I've gone dove
on public
duck
land.
hunting.
On public land.
Public land only in the north, and so it's not really dove hunting in the north isn't really too much of a thing.
Okay, I'm just saying I've seen people open up at like cardinals and mockingbirds and shit,
Yeah.
thinking they're doves too. So I'm like, the miss ID part of it. I'm like, I mean I buy that as a concern, but more just like they're not going to be where you're, hunting. That makes sense.
The native swans are very migratory. It's like, okay, so you just don't hunt them during the migratory season.
Yeah, don't hunt them when the native swans are around, and you're good.
Yeah. Also, like, they're very specific in their migratory routes, so, it's very unlikely that you would run into one. Having said that, I do know someone who killed a tundra swan and claimed they thought it was a snow goose, but we both know that was not an accident. There's more to that story that we're not going to go into.
No, we're good.
That wasn't no accident. Put it like that. Moving on. Okay, so
Yeah.
they're a real problem. Real problem that is largely ignored. It is legal to hunt them in a handful of states like Pennsylvania, Virginia, and California. Some other states, notably Michigan, is trying to reduce their population. However, they're not doing that through hunting. Instead, they're going through and they're destroying swan eggs, and particularly by oiling eggs. So, do you guys know what oiling eggs is?
No.
Is it literally just dumping oil on eggs?
Yeah, you just take
Like olive oil, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because eggs are a
Vegetable
permeable
oil or whatever.
Yeah, eggs are a permeable membrane, and so that's how like the chick breathes. Is like oxygen just comes through the shell, and so if you put oil on the outside of the egg is still intact, but the chick dies in the egg. If you just go in and crush eggs, if you do it too early in the season, the swans can, and this is with other birds, particularly geese, which lay a new egg.
Yeah, they'll just re-nest.
Yeah. But if you oil the egg, the swan does not know that the egg is in fact dead, and so they'll spend the whole, nesting season trying to raise that dead egg. So that's
Yep.
egg oiling. I say kill all the swans.
It's kind of interesting that because I don't know, I feel like, you know, as kids we all heard, you know, oh, if you touch a baby bird or an egg or whatever, like your smell will get on it and the parent will never come back to it. And it's like that's not true for the vast majority of birds. They have, like, except for like vultures and some other raptors, they mostly have really shitty sense of smell. So oiling does not, you know, you would think oiling an egg would be like this one, be like, oh, this egg's all fucked up, I'm getting out of here. No, they'll go sit on it.
I think it's a good thing to tell people, though, just so they don't mess with baby birds.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I think that's an okay time to lie to people. Marissa, as a historian, can we lie to people this way, or is it
No,
bad?
100%. Feel free.
I mean, if the baby bird's on the ground, he's fucked anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, probably gonna make it. Sorry, listener. If you went out there trying to say baby birds, most baby birds
I
are
didn't
born
make
to
it.
die.
They're suicidal by nature.
Well, all neonates are.
Yeah, that is true.
They just don't like being alive because they don't know any better. It's hard being
Every
alive.
last one of them will fail the ledge test.
The ledge test is you gotta jump out of the nest, bud. Okay, so those are swans. That was my swan song.
Ha. Nice.
Hey.
Okay, and now it is time for today's episode. It is in honor of the season. Merry Hogsmas!
Honk, honk,
Hogs,
honk.
I was
I don't
gonna say,
know.
like-
Hogsgiving? It's November.
Well, when this comes out,
Oh, yeah, it'll be like
Oh, yeah,
January.
that's a fair point. Yeah,
we're recording. We're
I have no idea where we're at on the calendar.
Oh,
but
it's a month at least.
Yeah, so Merry Hogsmas.
I mean, we could
Or Hogsgiving, whatever.
we could go
You know.
full Discworld and just go Hogs Watch. You know.
Yeah, Merry Hogsnicka. Happy Hogs Kwanzaa? I don't know how to make that one work.
Oh, I don't think so.
Festa Hog.
That didn't quite work. Yeah,
Festa
Hog.
Hog, yeah, Festa
Yeah.
Hog's good.
Hogstivis.
Yeah, Hogstivis. I like
Yeah.
Hogstivis.
Yeah, Merry Hogsmas to all of us. And in order to celebrate this wonderful time of the year, we have brought on Marissa to talk to us. Sorry, almost Dr. Marissa to talk to us about hogs. So today we're going to be talking about one of the most destructive, invasive critters in the world, found worldwide. Fun fact for you: the feral hog, Susus domesticus. So, as we like to do, we're going to do a little context. We're going to set the table here before we jump into everything. So, let's define a hog. So, for our purposes, the feral hog is a domestic hog, again, Susus domesticus, or a hybrid and or admixture. An admixture is the second generation of a hybrid. Hybrid is the cross between, in this case, a domestic hog and a feral boar, and the admixture is like 3 generations down, where it's like, you know, that hog's
back crossed,
Yeah.
so on and so forth.
that hog's grandfather was a wild boar, but it's been a domestic hog for the last 4 parents. So, those are all hogs. All Ms. hogs. Domestic hogs, and Marissa, this is where we're going to look to you at any time when we're wrong here. We're not historians. We are simply biologists who occasionally read papers. Sometimes they have a Japanese whiskey highball and do some reading and then some writing. So if we're wrong at any point, step in.
And some of us are overworked foresters who don't even know what the hell's going on, but did Google wild boar and discover that the terminology for a 0 to 10 month old wild boar is a squeaker, and is like, oh, that's just adorable then.
Oh, you should look up, I think it's grand old
There
hog.
are so many different little names for various kinds of ages of pigs and genders of
Yes.
pigs, and it's just it's.
What is your favorite, Marissa? As a historian, what's the one that we should know the most about as biologists?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot here. I mean,
Yes. That's what we brought the expert on.
so here's the thing. I'm a really big fan of the fact that we call boars, and boar refers to both a male and also just boars in general, and so you can say something's a
wild
boar.
Wild
boar.
boar.
Yeah, so you can say something's a boar and that means nothing. It doesn't give you a whole lot of information.
Yeah.
That's why
I hate it.
So that's why we have scientific nomenclature.
I hate it so goddamn much.
wild boars, which whenever we're going to talk about in this podcast, when we talk about wild boars, we'll refer to them as, Suphus scrofula, which is their scientific name, because we're cool like that. So, but that is an excellent point. Female hogs are called sows. Males are called boars. That's also how bears are referred to. Why? Couldn't fucking tell you.
That is
Why
weird.
not?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
not? Why not? What is a bear but a large hog? In many ways, these are the same animal,
I
as we'll
disagree
discuss.
with that, but anyway.
I feel like...
One of those has claws.
John,
How about that?
John, give me about an hour and you'll come around to my way of seeing things. Give me about an hour and we'll get it.
Historically, hogs have eaten a lot more people than bears.
That's one of the points that we're going to get
Yeah.
to. Excellent. But let's save our human eating hogs for a moment. And we'll come back to it. First, we need to create hogs. And at this point in the podcast,
We need to
we
create
don't have
hogs.
hogs.
Create
We don't
the
have hogs
hog.
yet.
We haven't gotten to the hog. We're not showing hog here yet.
We have concepts of a hog.
Yeah. We understand the hog in ID and the identity only. So hogs were first domesticated as wild boars in the Tigris River Valley, probably somewhere around, I don't know, a long time ago. Like 13, at least 13.
I was gonna say, I think they're the second oldest domestication after dogs.
There are also at least some claims in China of a separate domestication, which is possible, and there's some other claims of some other domestications. For the point of this podcast, I'm gonna say it doesn't matter. We domesticate hogs by at least 8,000 years ago, and they're all coming from wild boars. So every feral hog is a domesticated descendant of the wild boar. Again, Suphus scrofula. Wild boars are an incredibly successful species. There are at least 15 known subspecies. They span the continents from Europe, Asia into Polynesia and Oceania. So very successful species. Wild boars usually are about 3 to 4 feet tall and usually weigh 200 pounds. There are some larger hogs out there. If you start Googling around for largest pig shot in North America, you're going to see some interesting records. We'll put it like that.
Yeah.
Those records are usually pigs that have a strong tie. Again, not to make anyone feel too bad, but pigs that have a strong tie to humanity that have been shot, like someone's pet pig that was released for 2 weeks and then shot.
Yeah, and there's pretty good evidence and records. Basically, the further removed a pig is from domestication, so we're talking about actual feral hogs, not wild boars now, the more generations from domestication they are, the more generations they've been feral, the smaller they'll get. They'll go from you can have your 400-pound whatever pig on the farm, but it only takes a couple generations in the wild before that kind of reverts back to that 200-pound-ish weight. So the big pigs, the big feral hogs are probably fairly recently de-domesticated, gone feraled, escaped, or just first generation descendants of an escape, that sort of thing.
There are records though of 400, 500 pound wild boar being harvested. So that's a big pig. 200 pounds is about average. And
I think too they're spanning such a huge range of habitats and multiple continents, and all of those things have influences on the size of an animal. I mean, the key deer are tiny for a fucking reason. And the same thing's going to happen to pigs.
Yes. Yeah, and remember, wild boar run from Vietnam to Ireland, so huge spread on that curve. So you're going to see a huge spread and changes in size, behavior, etc. All right, Miss Hogter. Can you tell us a little bit about the human relationship and history with boars and pigs? Are we friends? Are we foes? What's the deal here?
So, historically, pigs have been really useful to humans. So, for one thing, they're the only domestic animal at the moment, and throughout a lot of history, that, like, doesn't have any secondary uses. Like, you're not raising a hog because it's gonna lay you some eggs or you're gonna drink its milk. Like, if you're raising a hog, it's because you're gonna eat the hog. That's why you have a hog. So they turn out to be these really convenient little packages that you can put a lot of calories into pretty easily. So humans have raised hogs because you can feed them whatever, and it turns into calories that you can then eat yourself later.
You are reading the script. Hold on, you're reading the script. One of the next paragraph is how efficient of a machine hogs.
Yeah, they're super efficient.
Fantastic.
And my context is medieval, so for medieval folks, this is a very great source of like insurance. So you have a hog and you feed the hog, and then, oh no, famine, and then you eat the hog. You might eat the hog a year earlier than you were intending to eat the hog, but you got to eat.
Which is, kind of important.
Yeah.
And you don't have to feed the hog good food. When food goes bad, you could feed the hog. You can just, as many Europeans like to do and did and still do, just cut the hog loose in the woods, and it'll eat fine. It'll get out there and eat some mushrooms, some acorns, baby chicks, whatever.
Maybe some children.
So tell us about that. So what do you mean it'll eat some children?
So in my research, I look at these executions of hogs, which are actual executions. It's not. I'm not being cute with it. It's like that. Like you hire the official executioner and they hang the hog.
There are trials too, as far as I remember.
There's a trial beforehand, presumably.
So sometimes.
Okay.
As with all
summary
hangings.
execution.
Yeah. So often there is a trial, but the trial is often of a human. And then at the end, they execute the hog, which is sort of confusing from the hog's perspective, I can imagine. You're like, what?
Yes.
What the fuck? Yeah, I have like a case from 1457 where a person is put on trial and they confiscate his hog and then they execute his hog. They also confiscated his piglets that were that sow's piglets. And then they determine that the piglets are actually, they can't prove that the piglets did anything, so they don't execute the piglets. But they do leave open the possibility that at some point in the future, if anything comes to light that proves that the piglets did participate in the murder, that then they'll execute the piglets.
Now, who was murdered?
A child. It's usually a child.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the child is being eaten by the
pigs. So what would happen is I would describe the medieval approach to childcare as one of benign neglect. They really loved their kids, and they also did not have enough time to watch them because they had to do other things. They were, I won't go too far down that road, but it leads to these circumstances where you have kids kind of wandering around free range and also some pigs wandering around free range, which is a terrible combination.
Because a human child is like 50 pounds, maybe.
This is also pre-modern, pre 1920 Europe, so like they ain't eating that good.
There's also the thing of like even if you were watching your kid, it doesn't necessarily help you that much because pigs were also pretty notorious for like knocking down doors and getting into people's houses.
Oh no.
So like there's multiple instances of kids who are like asleep in a cradle and the pig comes in and is like, "You made me a snack." Hell yeah.
Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
So it's
so I know that's not the reason why, but I get why like a lot of cultures have taboos against eating pigs or something like that. I know that's not the reason, but like man, it's starting to make a little bit more sense, I guess.
We must ask the implied question here. After the pig is executed, what do you do with it?
You certainly don't eat it.
Okay.
Because the pig is now part person because the body of the pig is made up of the things that the pig has eaten, right? So by medieval logic, you're like, okay, I can't eat that pig because that pig might also be like
pig is people.
might be like Martin's
next door
kid.
neighbor's kid.
Yeah. So you're like, we're not going to do that. So
That's part of the reason you execute the pig, right? So you go through a ritual, the ritual of execution.
That way, no one's eating the pig, and everyone knows what happened to the pig.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So the pig's also not presumably then fed to other pigs or anything. It's buried or whatever.
Sometimes it's buried. Often it's left to hang on the gibbet until it rots away.
So that it could be eaten by other pigs.
Yes, 100%. I also have to say in here that Calvin, you were talking about this interview that you had. I had a similar circumstance where I got to call a forensic pathologist and be like, I would like you to tell me many things about what happens if you hang a pig upside down. Because at least in the region that I study, which is Burgundy in France, the law was that you had to hang pigs by their back legs. So that's how they were executed. And I wanted to know how long that would take. The answer is longer than you would like.
I would imagine that would be a very long time.
Yes, and then you just leave them like that until they disintegrate.
Because you're hanging them. You're not really hanging them. You're dangling them until they just die. Like they're not cutting the throat or exsanguinating or anything like that.
Ooh, but that's not nice. I gotta say.
No, it's a horrible way to die. Yeah.
They're doing the thing to the pig that my parents said would always happen to me at the playground, when you hang by your legs and all the blood goes to your head, and they say you do that for too long, you'll get stuck and you'll die.
Yeah.
Am I the only one? Is that just me?
No.
Okay.
I think that was everybody.
I just wasn't going to compare myself to a murdering hog. That's what I wasn't going to do.
Well.
Oh.
I mean, you could. I love them, though. Like, I shouldn't. I really shouldn't, especially as a parent. I should be like, these are horrible hogs. But I kind of love them because they're just doing what hogs do, right? Like, they're not malicious. They're not like, I'm going to kill a kid today. They're just like, ooh, snacks.
Well, actually, we can't know.
That's true.
One of these hogs.
Who can know the mind of a hog?
I maybe write about that a lot, about how, like, we've all been children, but none of us have ever been pigs.
So it's really hard to understand all sides of this particular conflict.
I don't know, Marissa. I've heard many people say men are pigs, so
yeah.
I in fact do know the mind of a hog.
Boo.
But yeah, so basically that's my thing. Is like you've got these hogs wandering around.
Sometimes they're being watched by a swineherd. Sometimes that's who gets eaten.
Good God.
Well, I guess that's one way to get fired.
Yeah, I mean, like,
or the one that I'm thinking of in particular,
it's the swineherd's kid who gets eaten because the swineherd and his buddy decided they wanted to go off and do something else for a while, so they left the kid in charge of 2 herds of pigs, which was a bad plan.
Looking back on it, it was a bad plan.
In retrospect, it was rough. So what would happen is you get these pigs and you get these children interacting, and it's gonna be a domestic hog always. Like, this is not happening with wild boars, but I would say that you could classify these pigs as peri-domestic in the medieval period because they're spending a lot of their time just sort of foraging for themselves in the forests and interbreeding with wild hogs. So they're not quite domestic, but they're not wild either. But they eat a child, then everybody freaks out for some reason.
Understandably, I'd argue.
Couldn't imagine why.
And then they put the pig in prison because they got to do an investigation.
Honestly, a pig would love prison.
So, my favorite case involves a pig that was in prison for 5 years. And the people who had the pig in prison weren't allowed to execute the pig. And so they kept being like, for the love of God, can someone please let us execute this pig? Because it's just hanging out in prison. And do you know how much a pig eats? It's so dangerous.
Yeah, you're bankrupting this town that doesn't have taxes.
We're losing prisoners.
It's just the hog is hanging out with all the human prisoners because they're all at the same prison. You don't put them in a separate place. This isn't England.
The hog's just fucking running a prison gang.
So they're just like, it's been 5 years. Please, can we execute the hog? And eventually they're like, yeah, I guess you can. You can do that now.
But yeah, so you put him in prison, and then you do a little investigation just to prove, I guess, that the hog did in fact eat someone. And then you figure out who has the legal right to execute the pig, which is very important. And people have lots of arguments about that, and lots of litigation over it. And then you hang the pig by the back leg, and then you leave it there until it rots away, and then presumably you turn to people and be like, hey, maybe watch your kids better, and then they don't.
Get stronger doors, guys.
Yeah!
We thought of this?
Invest in latches.
Yeah. Try a lock.
Perhaps consider having your 4-year-old watched by someone older than 7.
Noted. All right, I'm just
Got
gonna
it.
write that down.
9-year-old.
Yeah, 9-year-old's fine.
What about a 9-year-old cat? Does that count? That's what I'm currently rolling with, and that's working out fine so
Yeah,
far.
I feel like the cat is definitely going to be pretty useful in a fight against a hog, so...
Okay, all right. Fantastic. So this has been our history corner. Now we're going to stay in the history of hogs for a second here. So, now, listener, this is going to surprise all of you. Hogs don't just magically appear in North America. We do have what people at the surface may confuse for hogs in the New World. But there are no swine. Well, so there are no suicidae. So that's going to be boars, feral hogs, all that kind of stuff. No suicidae are native to the New World. We do have pig-like ungulates. Those are called peccaries or javelinas.
They're so cute.
And they are very cute.
They are cute.
Let's just talk about javelinas for a second here. They are in Tysoonidae, which is in the same... Excuse me. So that's the family of them. It's in the same order, so stepping back, Suicidae and Tysoonidae are in the same suborder, Suna, aka swine, but they've been separated from between, depending on which taxonomist you ask and which fossil you find, 10 and 5 million years. So our peccaries and feral hogs, not the same. Kind of look the same, not the same. Not at all. In some places, they share ranges, and they do not interbreed. They cannot interbreed. The feral hogs will eat javelinas, and javelinas, given the opportunity, will eat feral hog babies. Again, the swine, just omnivores of incredible spectrum that'll eat basically whatever they can find. I know I said that birds eat a lot of stuff. Swine are the same way. Eat a lot of stuff.
And they can eat more than a bird, too, generally. On the scale is a little bit...
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that. We'll get there. They eat a lot. They eat basically anything. So we do have peccaries and javelinas in the New World, so North and South America. The Mayans and Olmecs did keep tame peccaries, but they never fully domesticated the peccaries. That domestication effort was interrupted by enemy of the podcast, the Europeans, in this case the Spaniards. Boo, the Spanish conquest of South America. Boo.
Boo. Yeah, genocide bad. Gang.
Yeah.
I feel like I can say that that's true for all of us. We're on board with genocide bad. Yeah.
Yep. I know it's a real reach.
Yeah.
Really going on a limb here. Genocide
Yep.
bad.
Yeah, I know.
Hot
I'm
takes.
brave. Thank you.
Well, hold on, I gotta say that for a second. So, the natives of the New World were kind of on track to domesticate them. The javelinas or peccaries do have some problems as a livestock. So where pigs usually run away from a fight, and as do most domestics, javelinas like to just stand and fight. They also, probably because we never finished domesticating them, take longer to mature than feral hogs. Feral hogs are able to breed somewhere between 6 months old and a year old. Javelinas are usually in the 2-year-old category. Also, this is kind of a fun thing. Fun in the setting that we're currently discussing. In captivity, peccaries are prone to infanticide. Both sexes are prone to infanticide. So I know that the good Hogder was just talking about swine as infant killers. In this case, peccaries just kind of don't like captivity, go a little crazy, and then just eat some babies.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be a trend.
I was gonna say, like, that's the one thing I'm pulling out so far is that anything that's vaguely associated with hogs is actually just infanticide by another name.
Yeah.
Do not
I
hire
don't
a
get
hog or hog-like being to babysit.
Gotcha. Writing that down for later.
Taking notes
this
there.
Is, this is important. This is important.
Good to know.
information. This is why, listener, you listen to the podcast. Hogs don't mix with babies.
Yep.
Hogs and babies, bad combination. All species. Don't trust them around any species of baby.
Nope.
Especially if that baby is small, tender, and juicy, like a baby peccary.
Yeah.
I mean, I would generally don't mix babies with any livestock, but especially hogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of the other thing about, as we kind of mentioned, peccaries are known to occasionally kill people and beings that try to chase them and try to hunt them. They are fighty enough that jaguars, when given the opportunity, will hunt feral pigs over peccaries because the feral pigs are less fighty and they're less likely to, hurt the predator. So peccaries is real fighty, kind of a threat if you approach them the wrong way.
Yeah, that's impressive too when you consider that like most feral hogs are going to be, probably around that 200-pound range, and like a peccary is 90.
I was gonna say
maybe 100 at most.
That's a choice.
Yeah. Well, there's a larger peccary further in South America that gets like towards 130. But yeah, no, they're real fighty. Them boys is fighty. They get after it. Okay. Speaking of fighty, a threat to life, both human and wildlife, Europeans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now we're going to specifically talk for a second about noted war criminal at the time, genocider, and of course friend of the pod, Christopher Columbus.
Ah,
Yes.
fucker.
Yeah.
He is the first person to introduce feral hogs to the New World. So this is something that the Spaniards love to do. Is when they were rolling around here, so they were colonizing and thinking about showing up, and they would just, because in a ship of the 1500s, there's no refrigeration. So the best way to keep food from spoiling is just to not have it as food.
Put it
so
in
they
a
kept a lot of
pig.
livestock. Yeah, put it in a pig.
Put it in a pig.
Keep the pig alive. So what they would do is they would, when they rolled up to somewhere they thought they would be coming back to, they just kick a bunch of pigs, a couple of goats and cows off of the ship. Like literally just throw them off the ship. Like, yeah, swim, bitch. And then the animals would swim to shore, and then the Europeans would come back in a few years, and they would just hunt up, they'd hunt themselves up some feral boars, feral pigs, whatever, or feral goats or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a living
yeah.
food cache.
It's not like it is. It's exactly what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a thing that has happened across European settlement. That's why there are feral goat populations at a lot of small islands, particularly the Galapagos, have some real issues with feral goats.
I was going to say feral goats in the greater Oceania area. That's what they did.
So we're going to go on, because we have a historian on the pod, we're going to do it. We're going to have a slight historical diatribe. So this practice was so common, it eventually gave rise to the term buccaneer. So a buccaneer is derived from the French word boucans, which is a corruption of the Arawak word boucan. I hope that was clear enough. These are all slightly separate words. And the Arawak word, which is a native people's native to the Caribbean, those were the Arawaks. They were then genocided out of existence. Sorry, that was me. I did a little rest in peace. So that word meant to slow roast or make jerky. So buccaneers were people they were landless peasants who would go around and hunt pigs, boars, and feral animals to make jerky of. And they would sell that jerky to sailors or settlements. Eventually, the buccaneers figured out that, hey, instead of just selling things to the sailors, what if we just robbed them? And so they started going out, because the buccaneers were usually French, so they would go out in small boats and rob the Spaniards, because that paid much better.
That's what you do, yeah.
And was easier.
That is more convenient in many ways. Yeah.
Yeah. After they robbed themselves a few larger ships, they eventually became full-on pirates. Unfortunately, as Tom Brady can attest, the fate of all Buccaneers is death. So that's Tom Brady's career.
That's a good that's a good get. Yep.
I like it. Yeah. Nice.
And the Buccaneers really came to an end in the 1700s. And despite Tom Brady's best attempts at reviving them, not really come back since. So Buccaneers were really put down at the end of the golden age of piracy with the expansion of the naval state. So we have to blame for our hog problem, as with many things, colonialism, racism, and capitalism.
Yay!
Getting a little tired of hearing that on this podcast.
I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm not the historian here. I'm just the guy who looks at that.
Seems like we keep running into this. I don't know.
It is a trend. I don't know what to make out of it because I'm just a simple forestry biologist.
I just light shit on
There
fire.
are a lot of really interesting parallels that like hogs show up in the history of racism a lot, which is super interesting. But that keeps happening.
Yeah. Well, so hogs are unfortunately for us not just limited to the Spanish conquest of the Caribbean. Once the Spanish start conquering the New World itself in North and South America, the Spaniards bring one of their favorite foods with them, a little Iberico, jamón Iberico, except in this case it's jamón Mexico. And they start just cutting hogs loose across the New World. So we have established feral hog populations from Argentina to Texas following the Spanish conquest. The last known Spanish introduction of feral hogs was in 1796 in California. And that was following the release of some hogs on a Spanish mission up there. So we can also throw Catholicism into the mix here as a thing to blame for.
I mean, it's the Spanish in the 15th century. They're
kind of one and the same at that point.
It's the same thing, yeah.
Well, yeah. Although, I will say for California, their problems are not solely to blame on the Spanish in the 15th century, the 1700s. In California, there were Russian boar imported by a wealthy landowner, and those are also a source of genetics and introduction there. So they're rich.
There's been other small reintroductions, or however you want to put that, of boar elsewhere since then as well.
We're gonna hold on that note. We're gonna come back to that. So feral hogs. This is one of the big reasons why the feral hog invasion in North America is the worst in the southeast United States. They've just been there the longest because the Spaniards cut them loose. And as Marissa was mentioning, like feral hogs are very good animals at they're just highly efficient beings at creating more hogs. Naturally, because they are derived from wild boar, they can be found in many different ecosystems. So, in North America, we find them everywhere from Brazil to the Caribbean. They're up in the prairies of Saskatchewan because, in the wild, we have wild boars that, roam the Russian taiga. We got wild boars in Japan. Like, these critters are very flexible. They do not have a specific niche they fit in. The niche they fit in is food.
Yes.
Do you have food? Oh, no, you don't have food? I will find food. The feral hog diet in North America is so varied. I was reading a paper about it. It's incredible. They are known to eat everything from algae to shellfish to garbage to, as Marissa has mentioned, babies.
Their diet is what is there.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it feels surprisingly human in that regard of just like, yeah, man, it can eat so much stuff, and that's one of its benefits.
I often think about their adaptability in the context of humans. Like, they're very, very good at adapting to whatever environment they find themselves in, and they're very good at going, oh, I can find food here.
Not just find food, they will kill food.
Yeah.
So, as Marissa's discussed with babies, like hogs regularly kill things. They are what, as AJ had mentioned, a domestic hog doesn't. A lot of times their teeth are removed and they're kind of bred not to have those large fighting teeth. What is the ivories? What's the real?
The tusks.
Yeah, the tusks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Domestic hogs are not bred to have tusks, but when they escape, they'll start to grow those out.
Yeah, we were talking about this off of the recording earlier, Calvin and I, and yeah, they revert to wild type in fucking no time. It's insane.
It's not even generational. It's literally weeks.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like no other domesticated animal that I can think of could you do this
Hogs
with.
just really want to be pointy. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why they're called razorbacks in Arkansas.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
The Arkansas razorback, that is a feral hog. And that tradition of hunting hogs in Arkansas, or Arkansas if you're boring, that dates back to feral hogs that were released by the Spaniards.
I do wonder, and I don't know, maybe Marissa, you might, I don't know if this is, if like hog breeds are too much of a recent thing for you to have really looked into with your like research, but like I'm guessing the, you know, Iberian pig that, you know, the Spaniards dropped everywhere might be itself like closer generationally to an actual wild boar than like, you know, some of the like your big pink pig, whatever those are, the Yorkshires or whatever. But I don't know if that's anything that you had studied or run into. Like, at what point do we start getting pig breeds in
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Written history.
So the time that I'm at, like, you don't really have breeds. Occasionally you have regional coloration differences, but that's kind of it. Like, you can tell. Yeah, like if you're looking at a medieval image of a pig, you can't tell like breed. You also mostly can't tell if it's wild or domestic because their domestics looked like wild boars. The only way you can tell is that domestic pigs have curly tails. So if it has a curly tail, it's probably domestic. But yeah, breeds come later when people start to specialize. At this point, at the point that where my research comes from, they're just like, it's a pig, and it looks like a pig.
Well, I think the other thing to remember is, like, yes, we can blame the Spanish for the initial introductions, but you do have continual introductions and escape of domestic hogs, up and through today. We do, today.
Oh yeah,
domestic hogs get out of farms because, like, one thing we haven't mentioned so far is hogs are incredibly smart animals that have huge brains. I don't actually eat pigs anymore because, like, that's probably a sentient animal, and they are raised terribly. So
yeah, they are.
Yeah. Pork and chicken were the first ones to leave for me. When I went vegetarian. Am going vegetarian still. So.
Yeah. So, like, this is a very smart animal that basically anywhere you keep them in captivity will escape from captivity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised I haven't seen more in Iowa, like more reports of them.
I haven't.
Well, that's also because USDA does a very good job at tracking down and eliminating any ferals.
I have an instance in the medieval period of a pig escaping from prison. So yeah, they're really good at that.
It learned to pick locks.
Yeah, they did catch it again, so that did end well for the pig. But like it was missing for like 3 days, which is incredible.
That's pretty good for a pig.
Right?
Yeah.
You gotta give it to
It doesn't have thumbs. Like, that's impressive.
The other thing, Marissa, as you were discussing the various breeds of medieval pigs, I know this is early modern, but I can only think of the brother, share some oats.
Yes.
So that's all I could think of when you were describing regional differences in hogs. So all of this is to say, the Spanish are at fault, but the pigs keep getting out. They always get out. And especially in colonial times, like, you have, the English settlers as well as other settlers who are raising hogs the same way that they raise them in Europe, which is, just kind of loose. We'll find them. A lot of times you don't find them because there are indigenous groups around who go, oh, free pig!
Free pig, yeah.
But also a lot of times you don't find them because it turns out, like, the new world is not the old world. And there's about 100,000 acres of forest out your backyard, and you're not going to be able to go round up your pigs. Once them boys is gone, once the hog has left the farm, it has left the farm. So there are continual introductions, and still are introductions. The other thing that I'm not going to get into too much, I'll save that for AJ, but we do also have introductions of some Russian boars, also just wild boars from across the world as a hunting stock. It is a very unfortunate, for a number of reasons, thing that is allowed in many states. In many states, you can go hunt feral pigs or wild boars. Wild boars, again, have been hunted since humans have been a thing. They've often sought after because it's, particularly, in the medieval times, there was a lot of status to be found with hunting a wild boar. This is a large animal. It's difficult to kill. That frequently
will kill you too.
Yeah,
and it was seen as an animal that you needed to kill up close and personal. So there was a level of like bravery associated with it, and this is also how a wild boar wound up killing at least one French king. So,
and if you read Game of Thrones, you lose old Bobby to a wild boar. I'm going to save some of the management for AJ, but feral pigs as well as wild boars, the reason you have to hunt them up close and personal is because they have a very thick skin. This is a tough animal to kill. They are smart, and they are tough, and they have a good layer of fat on them. So if you just shoot them with some arrows, that's going to bounce off mostly, or it's going to do some superficial damage, and a pig can take some superficial damage. You got to get in there, and you got to kill them. Mm-hmm. They do not die easy, but we'll save that for AJ a little bit. So, AJ, you can talk about killing pigs, but it is not pretty, usually. Okay, so how do pigs die in the New World? Mostly they don't. You occasionally lose hogs to, predators like gators, jaguars, cougars, and indigenous peoples, as well as, folks who are just out there on the land. If you were, let's say you're a cowboy, and you just see a pig running around, well, guess what? That old peacemaker works on pigs, too. So that's where a lot of pigs go.
You know what surprisingly does not kill very many feral hogs in the New World, though, is cars.
That's
exactly you do not see much in the way of hog roadkill.
They are too smart. Also,
they're too smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, that would fuck your shit up.
Yeah, because they are a dense package of meat.
Yeah,
Yes.
but like at the same time, you hear stories of people hitting moose regularly.
Yeah.
That's a huge animal that'll fuck your day up. But like a hog, I've never heard of that happening.
They're smart.
Very rarely.
They're real smart animals. Hogs will occasionally be taken by other predators like bears, both grizzly and black, but rarely do they take hogs. Hogs, again, too fighty and too smart. Wolves, or historically have thought to have eaten hogs. Today, wolves are not really overlapping with hogs too much outside of the Mexican wolf.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about if we're looking at feral hogs and wild boars as analogous, which they very much are, in their native range, like wolves are absolutely the primary predator of wild boars. That's the main thing that kills them in their native range. But like in North America, we don't have enough wolves to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we do have wolves overlapping in Saskatchewan and up in the Dakotas, but if you're a wolf, there's better things to hunt than a hog. Like, again, as we've discussed, they're tough and smart, so why would you hunt a hog when you can hunt a deer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
Deer
same
is a
200
lot
pounds
stupider.
of food. Yeah, plus, a deer might fight back, but it does not have, a good 6-inch tusks that it's very happy to turn on you and then eat you as you fall down.
Yeah, I think that's something that you don't necessarily think about when you're thinking about feral hogs fighting back against predators or like wild ones. Like, they will eat a predator, so that would turn the tables in a very unpleasant way for a predator.
Yeah. Oh no! The predator has become literally the prey.
Yeah. Whoops.
Other things that are we're about to get into some interesting territory with other things that are reported to have consumed hogs. So when we do dietary studies of animals, there are a couple ways to do them. You could do observational studies where you look at trail cameras and stuff like that, or observations that scientists and trusted people have of predation. You can also look in scat, so you just go find some poop and see what kind of bones is in poop, or you can kill some animals and see what's in their belly. So that's where a lot of those last two are where a lot of this next information is going to come from. So listener, I just want you to take this with a huge grain of salt, because with dietary studies, you don't know the condition that food arrived in the belly. Like, so
It's a dietary study, not a predation study.
yeah. So foxes, coyotes, ocelots, bobcats, and eagles, both bald and golden, as well as vultures are reported to have consumed feral hogs. I'm gonna bet 100 times out of 10, a fox eating a hog is a fox
That's
that has found a dead
eaten.
hog.
Yeah.
Same with the coyote. Maybe a pack of coyotes has eaten a baby.
Maybe if they could split off a little squeaker.
Yeah, maybe.
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 I'm very skeptical of ocelots and bobcats as well.
Again, I could see a bobcat picking up, like if a mama hog gets killed and there's a little like 6-day-old squeaker
I was gonna
out
say
there.
they have to be like less than a week old because any longer than that, they're gonna be too fucking big even for a bobcat.
Yeah, so
Yeah, they mature super quickly.
yeah, so there's a lot of things that are reported to have eaten hogs, but these are not valid predators. They're not, and the other thing is like these things that we've listed as potential predators are not good predators because there are literally millions of feral hogs in the Americas. So there are effectively no predators for feral hogs.
It reminds me of people saying the reason why I can't find any deer in my backyard in Iowa is because, there are a lot of coyotes. Paying attention to, the fact that they have no, food for a deer to eat. So very similar, I think, to that, where it's just like, yeah, it'll take a fawn, it'll take one or two, and at least in the case of feral hogs and stuff like that, yeah, they reproduce 50 in a day or whatever. Like it's
We'll
not
talk about that in a second.
Yeah,
Well, and
yeah.
the other thing about how we hunt hogs today is a lot of times hogs are just killed and left in the landscape, which you can feel about the way you do. But like a 200-pound pig that's just shot and runs off and dies in the woods is a great food source for a lot of mid-level carnivores. So those are going to be your coyotes, your bobcats, etc., and as well as scavengers. So I think a lot of food is getting to that way. I would also be super interested to see a study that looks at the impact of pig hunting on carnivore loading and scavengers. But that's an impossible study to run.
Yeah, that'd be real tough.
Yeah, because you just find if you are a flock of vultures, somebody going through and killing hogs every couple of weeks, that's just food forever right there. But we'll never get that study done. Okay, so we have kind of defined hogs, what they are, how they got here. So let's talk a little bit more about this critter to understand why it is an issue. So as Marissa has mentioned, this thing will eat anything. They are reported having eaten everything from baby birds to acorns, everything.
They love
They are
acorns.
Also humans.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, baby humans.
But they love acorns. Like, that is their primary food source, or supposed to be their primary food source in the Middle Ages. It doesn't work out that way, but they love acorns.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about hogs is, this is a domestic animal that we have bred. So we have bred them to be very fecund, meaning very reproductively successful. So, AJ, on a farm, I'm going to say this on a farm, and then you can come in and tell me what things are happening in real life. In farm settings, sows become reproductively successful. They enter estrus and reproductive settings, somewhere between 3 months old and 12 months old. Once they go into estrus, they're going to recycle every 18 to 24 days. Now that's interesting because not a lot of animals work like that. Deer will cycle, but a lot of critters, let's say pandas, for example, they're going to go into estrus once. And you got a 24-hour period if you are a male panda to breed that female panda. If you miss it, boy. That's it. Hogs, they're going to cycle until they are successfully bred. The males are reproductive somewhere between 7 months and 12 months old. Again, this is a critter that can live out to 7 years old. So you're seeing a lot of potential reproduction happening with this animal, which is something we've bred for.
Yeah.
This is a selected animal. We have to remember that. That's why we're calling it feral hogs and not wild hogs, because we have altered them genetically. As AJ is going to discuss in a second, wild boars a little bit different than farm pigs, but we're going to start with the farm pig.
Yeah.
Because
feral hogs, wild boars, because a couple years ago, I'd say, you started seeing a bunch of news stories and that sort of thing around. Actually, I know what it was. It was the 30 to 50, feral hogs.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Meme. Around that time, I think people started like, you started seeing all these news stories about like, well, wait, what are feral hogs? Like, well, I've never even heard of this kind of stuff. And you'd get these like crazy estimates of like, a single sow can produce 30 piglets in a year, which no, she fucking can't. It's mathematically not possible. And the reason is basically you have to take the high range of every estimate and then ignore that part of that 30 is a partial litter. Like, so they reproduce on, like 115 day gestation. And then you've got 5 weeks of weaning and estrus before you can have another litter, right? So yeah, at most you're getting 2 and like a quarter litters in a year. And in the wild, like I said, in a farm setting, sure, you could have litters of 12 or whatever. In the wild, 12 is the very, very high end. Average is 5. And that's for like the first litter in good condition. And the second litter in a year is probably going to be less because I'm told that having babies takes a lot out of you.
It does, a little bit. Tiny bit.
Yeah. So yeah, you get these like crazy estimates of how quickly they can reproduce, and they do reproduce quickly. Like, I'm not saying they don't, but like, we also don't need to make up numbers. There's plenty enough pigs to wreak havoc on an ecosystem without having crazy numbers.
Okay, so we caught up about what actual wild hogs do compared to feral hogs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so basically all that is to say, once you got hogs, you have hogs.
Yeah. It's you're not getting rid of
pretty
them
much. They don't go away on their own.
No. No, they will never. They will never. You will have hogs until you, the human, kill all the hogs. That's it. Because as we discussed, they're going to eat anything and everything, and they're going to find food. They're going to feed themselves some way, somehow. If it means beating down your door and eating your kids.
Oh, actually, this was an interesting thing that I did forget to mention. So, like, litter size is also very strongly tied to body size. So, first of all, older sows will tend to have bigger litters just because they're older and they've had time to get bigger. But it's also, going back to how recently removed they are from domestication. So, a recently released or escaped or whatever pig or second generation, let's say, feral hog, might have a larger litter than a third, fourth, fifth generation feral hog, because as they get removed from domestication, that body size goes down, and along with that, so does the litter size. So there's some really interesting like reproductive dynamics going on there. It's not super important from like a management standpoint, but it's neat.
Yeah, I mean, the other neat thing that I found is like, in a farm setting, a hog can have between 18 and 20 piglets. Wild setting, as AJ said, you're looking at like 5.
Yeah.
So you will see some videos and pictures of really big sounders. That's what a group of pigs is called. It's called a sounder. I don't know the actual reason, but I think the reason is because you can hear them coming. Because if you find like a group of wild hogs, they are very loud.
They are.
They are not quiet. So sounders can theoretically range from 2 to 20 pigs, but usually you're going to see about 6 to 8 pigs, with usually like 2 to 4 adults in that sounder.
Yeah, it's usually like 2 to 4 reproductive aged females, and they're usually pretty closely related, the females. And then they'll have their piglets and maybe some subadults from their previous litters. So they're kind of moving in these like extended family units. Mature males are loners. They're not part of sounders, unless they're trying to breed, and then they're fighting.
That's why the females are love around. The big males are, first of all, they're big. You're talking again the 200, 400 pound animal, and they're aggressive.
Yeah, and that goes back to the age at which they are reproductively mature. Like the difference between feral and domestic hogs. A domestic hog, you breed it when you breed it because it's domestic and you kind of control that. Feral hogs, like the male has to be big enough to fight off another male, and to an extent the female in order to breed. So they're usually not going to be, reproductively successful until they're like at least a year old, maybe even a year and a half, just because they're not big enough. They're not big enough to get the job done at that point in the wild.
I mean, and this is an important thing when we're thinking about feral hog management is, in your sounder, you got two, maybe 4 big pigs, and then everything else after that is small. So what most hunters do is they want to shoot the big pig, and they let the little ones go. Mm-hmm. Feral hogs are very good at taking care of themselves after after they're weaned. They're good to go. They'll be more successful if they hang out around mama, but they're fine. They don't actually need mom. So if you bust up a sounder and you shoot the 2, maybe 4 adults in that sounder, and there's 6 babies that escape, guess what? You've done very little to the population because those 6 babies can very quickly replace mama. And you got to kill them all. That's the only way to control the sounder is to completely
and you've given them a reason to disperse as well.
Yep, this is a kill them all kind of situation. You got to go Genghis Khan mode on feral hog management. Everybody dies. Nobody gets out alive. But we're going to save that for AJ's part. Okay, so why are we as managers concerned about feral hogs? If you are an agriculturalist, this is one of your biggest sources of damage. Feral hogs will come in and they will root around. That's their feeding behavior. So they get those tusks out and they just literally run through the dirt. They eat everything they can find, from roots to grubs to seeds, everything. They destroy your whole field. They'll destroy your golf course, and they'll eat everything.
Even crops that are not traditionally thought of as food, cotton, they'll rip the cotton bolls off and squeeze the moisture out of them if they're thirsty. They're just assholes.
Also, they really enjoy rooting behavior. Even if it's not food related, they just like to do it. This is why medieval people put rings in their noses to keep them from rooting.
That's incredible. That is incredible. But that rooting behavior is really destructive, as one could imagine, to forest settings. You're going to get no regeneration if you got hogs around, because again, the hogs they're just going to eat everything.
I saw a study that said a single hog can do 6.5 square feet of soil disturbance in a minute.
Yep.
And they can keep that up all fucking day. Yep. Let me tell you a little story about multiple failed longleaf pine establishments because feral hogs came in and I don't know why they like longleaf so much, but they love to root up the longleaf and then eat the roots.
Well, the other thing is when you do good site prep, let's say you put some rows in to make it easier for your planting crew, now you have exposed a bunch of soft soil that's really fun for the hogs just to come and just root around in. And so they just root around in those rows just because it's there. Mm-hmm. It's nice soft dirt to play in. I don't know, you're just a pig, man. You're like a pig in shit.
Just doing pig things.
Yeah. Gonna be a pig. So hogs are very closely related, the presence of hogs and the feeding of hogs is very closely related to a massive increase in the number of invasive species as well as a decrease in overstory health. As one could imagine, the destruction of surface roots, and especially those feeder roots, is really hard on trees. As well as the loss of all of your propagules, because you had a good mast year and then a dozen hogs came in and ate all of the mast. So
yeah, sounds about right.
So really hard on forests. The other reason that we are concerned about hogs as scientists and managers is they're a massive. Listen, you can't see this. I got both my hands out as big as I can go. They're a massive health threat. I'm just going to quote one paper this was about One Health, about feral hogs. Hogs are a triple threat. They can move disease to wildlife, to livestock, to humans, and between all three. And there aren't literally tens of millions of these things ripping around, a bunch of states. There's not millions of them. They are known to carry at least 34 diseases that are known to cause death and injury to humans and livestock. They carry diseases like toxoplasmosis, trichinosis, E. coli, salmonella, most varieties of the flu. Their immune system is pretty similar to human immune systems, so it's very easy for diseases to move from pigs into humans and vice versa, hence the 2009 swine flu outbreak. They, as we've discussed, like to hang out in crops. We like to eat crops. They also like to poop a lot, so hogs are known, once again, to infect crops with diseases like salmonella and E. coli and trichinosis. Well, the trichinosis usually comes from eating them, but if they poop on stuff, it's not good for you. They will also increase erosion and poop in bodies of water. This increases sedimentation, changes nutrient balances in water, kills fish, as well as increases the need for filtration. If you're not doing good water filtration, you will also get some of the diseases we've discussed, and I just decided not to talk about because we've only got so long to talk about diseases.
Yeah. But no, the water quality thing too is a huge problem. I mean, just from a wildlife standpoint as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like we have tons of sensitive fish and mollusks and I don't know other bugs. It's all bugs.
And humans. I mean, look, man, we're all
anything that's not
downstream
wildlife is bugs. It is the official stance of this podcast that if it's not wildlife, it's bugs.
Except for hogs. Hogs is humans sometimes.
Hogs is humans.
Sometimes hogs is humans.
Okay, yeah, we can add that. We can add that to it. But yeah, it's like they're hell on water quality. And we didn't really talk about like the direct depredation either of wildlife that hogs do. I mean, we mentioned it a little bit, like they'll eat baby birds, but like hogs do not have. They have an okay sense of sight, okay sense of hearing. They have a really fucking good sense of smell. So they're actually pretty good at sniffing out ground nesting birds and bird nests and finding them. Same thing for like gopher tortoise burrows. We find those excavated all the time. And a lot of our barrier islands that would, that have sea turtles on them, if the islands have hogs on them, that's like a primary mortality factor for nesting sea turtles, for the nests themselves, not the mature turtles. I mean, but yeah,
I don't know. I bet a hog could take out a mature sea turtle if it wanted to.
I mean, I'm sure it could.
Like I believe in the hog.
Yeah, it's the hogs are just drawn to babies of every species.
Why do they hate babies?
They like babies. They find them very delicious.
Much like a hog.
Yeah.
The hog sees itself in the baby, and then it is therefore called to the baby.
I mean, the hogs can be kind of quick. They can run at a pretty good clip if they need to.
Now, if only they would find the rapper the baby. Then I could get along with the hogs. I had to get one in for the youths. That was for the youths who listen. None of them. Other things that we want to think about with hogs is they are a threat to livestock and pets. They are a known transmitter of brucellosis, bovine tuberculosis. Yep, they're not cows, but their immune system is close enough that it works. And a bunch of other flus and stuff like that. So, them's not good. I know we talked about hogs killing babies in the old world. Guess what? That is not limited to the old world. In 2019, a woman in Texas was killed by a sounder of hogs. This was the most recent kill by a group of feral hogs, but it's not the only time it's happened. There have been at least 5 deaths in North America due to feral hogs, not counting roadkill.
Having been hip checked by a hog, I can absolutely see how that happens. Like, I didn't go down when I was hip checked by a hog, but I was like, oh, this would be very easy for you to just take me down. Cool.
Maybe I would like to be on the other side of that fence.
Yep. Like, oh, I'm glad I came in here. Now I would like to leave.
It was not taking you down to Paradise City. It was taking you down to Hogtown.
Yep. And Hogtown is painful.
Well, not for long.
True.
If the hog has its way.
Yeah.
I will say the hog is right to eat humans. We've done enough to the hogs that they are not wrong.
Correct.
Not wrong to eat us. Okay, so that's just a light introduction to hogs, why we care about hogs, the history of them, and a little bit of biology. AJ, would you like to talk more about how feral hog invasion works in the modern day and their management?
So, feral hog invasion is kind of interesting because
It's a lot interesting.
They don't really. I mean, they invade them. They do their own invading. They population increase and they'll spread on their own. But the primary way in which they spread is by people. And we actually have a really interesting example of this in Tennessee. For like ever, Tennessee had feral hogs in like 15 counties. for like 50 years. They were pretty stable just in those 15 counties. The populations were there, not really growing or anything. Then Tennessee decided to open up hunting of feral hogs. And wouldn't you know it, in almost no time, Tennessee had feral hogs in 80 counties. How does that happen? Well, people like hunting, and people like hunting hogs. And so if you make it legal to hunt hogs and you don't have hogs there, people will tend to bring them. And that's happened all across the country, everywhere that feral hogs have expanded to, I would say, in the U.S. for the most part. You can trace a lot of that back to, well, is hunting allowed there? Was hunting previously not allowed and then, legalized? You'll see a pretty good spread that way.
Well, hog hunting.
Yes, so, hog hunting. Sorry, yeah. Specifically hunting of feral hogs.
We've talked a good bit about hunting in this podcast. We've discussed a lot about how it's highly regulated and stuff like that. Feral hog hunting is the exception to that. Feral hog hunting, I mean, AJ, I want you to correct me here.
It depends on this. It's different state by state because certain states consider feral hogs wildlife rather than,
that's wrong.
Agriculture, domesticated livestock or feral escaped livestock. Like it's very different state by state.
Yeah.
A lot of that just comes down to who's in charge of the problem. But yeah, so some states, like a feral hog problem would fall under the State Department of Agriculture rather than, the Department of Natural Resources or whatever the state equivalent of that is. But yeah, even so, even in states where hunting of feral hogs is legal, there's not, by and large, is not a lot of regulation in terms of how. There might be more regulation on state-owned lands, but like you can hunt, you can run them down with dogs, you can shoot them from helicopters, you can hunt them over bait. Even in states where like that is, hunting deer over bait's not legal, you could probably hunt feral hogs over bait if hunting feral hogs is legal in that state.
There's no season. There are very few established methods of take, if any.
Yeah.
So we've talked about with deer. Like with deer, it is regulated with whitetails. Well, all species of deer. It's regulated what caliber gun you can use and where you have to shoot at the deer to kill them. With hogs, that is usually not the case.
Right. Yeah.
You can look up today, videos of people hunting hogs with dogs and Bowie knives.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't recommend it. It usually doesn't end well for anyone involved. But it is a thing that is done.
Yeah. It's like I enjoy hunting hogs, but I'm not running them with dogs. I'm hunting them the same way I would deer. Like I'm choosing my shots and going about it in the normal way,
in an ethical, legal manner.
In a normal, ethical way. Like everyone should be probably. But an awful lot of people are not. And the hog hunting kind of, in a lot of ways, I feel like it kind of opens up people to their worst natures in some ways, just in terms of how they go about it. They think, oh, it's an invasive species, I don't have to be ethical about it, I can just spray and pray, and like you'll find large boars taken that you can tell they've been shot like 4 or 5 times before, or maybe they still have an arrow in them from the last time somebody tried to take them with a with a recurve at 50 yards or something. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and as we discussed, like hogs are a tough animal, so you gotta you should usually be thoughtful about how you kill this animal because it usually doesn't die. Mm-hmm. It doesn't die the first, second, nor fourth time you take a shot at it. If you're just winging things at them, which is unethical to do, and also, ammo's expensive now. Yeah. So we don't recommend that at all. But it's also not an effective way to reduce feral hog populations.
No, not at all. Not at all. As we discussed, like if you're hunting hogs that are in a sounder, then you're probably just shooting one mature, female, one mature sow out of a group of 8 to 20. Like that's not effective population management, and neither is going to be taking a single boar. You're just training those hogs how to avoid people hunting them. you're breaking up sounders and dispersing them across the landscape, and you're not actually impacting the population. And then when you add in the temptation to spread hogs, to allow for easier and more convenient hunts, like it just opens things up too much to it's an ineffective method.
Yeah, no. Recreational hog hunting is a way to get hogs. It is not a way to control hogs.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of species hunting is an essential part of population management. Not for hogs. It doesn't work. And it's actually counterproductive in a lot of ways. But we do have methods that can work and have worked. It just takes a lot. I don't know that we could ever eradicate them from the entire continental U.S.
I mean, it's an invasive species.
That's probably not going to happen.
In invasion biology, your elimination is off the table.
Yes, but I think it's maybe more close to possible than we would think. At least in some states, I'll say. I don't know that we could ever get them out of the Southeast, but I think Missouri has a chance at it. And Missouri has a shitload of hogs, feral hogs. But I think I started to talk about this earlier, but then I got sidetracked. They used to allow hunting of feral hogs, and they had feral hogs all over the fucking state. And I forget how many years ago, not that long ago.
I think it was 2016 they banned it.
I didn't even think it was that long ago, but you might be.
2018. It's recent.
Yeah, they banned hunting. They took away the feral hog, season regulations, whatever. And then the department, or the the Missouri Department of Conservation started addressing hogs, intensively themselves, and they've actually gotten, significant reductions in population. I don't know that they've gotten counties where they're saying locally extirpated yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if they get to that point, because they're putting in the effort. So yeah, how do we actually do it? There's kind of 3 options ish, 3+ methods of control. So you've got aerial gunning, which is what it sounds like, but it's probably not what you're thinking.
Wait. Hold on. Can we stick on Missouri for 1 second? Because I do have to know about Missouri. So the populations of Missouri are falling due to this successful control. There is one blazing exception to that, which is federal land. Hog hunting is legal on federal land, and that is the only place that hog populations remain strong. It is interesting as a biologist to observe that somehow a hog understands land ownership and property boundaries. Also,
those are federal hogs, Calvin. Those are totally different.
Well, I know the federal hogs, and I would say they're in Congress. Hey-o! But that's also, if you follow the history of the Missouri invasion, it does start on federal land and expand out. So, yeah. So the fed land is the problem, because that's where hog hunting is not limited. So that just really goes to prove your point. Sorry, AJ.
No, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't even know that hog hunting was still legal on federal property in Missouri. Because usually the way that works is for wildlife that are managed at the state level, the federal properties refer to the state regulations. They defer to state regs. So
except for who's been in charge, 2 of the last 3 presidencies.
Well, yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, but for just generally in terms of how wildlife management works in the U.S., that's usually how it goes. Hunting on Forest Service land, you follow state regs, and maybe there are federal regulations that are more stringent, but they're never going less stringent. Anyway,
But hogs are listed as a federal agricultural pest, and so that's why.
That's how they get snuck in. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
And again, this is. So we really try not to go after people and groups for things that are wrong, but in this case, the hog hunting, just to hunt hogs, is not a good way to control things. And people who like to hunt hogs, it's fair, it's a thing you can do, but they do push beyond the boundaries of what is good science, what's good for biology. And in this case,
Yeah,
like,
don't kid
that
yourself
season.
that you're helping control an invasive species by doing it. Like if you want to hunt hogs to get some ham, go for it. But like I mean that's why I do it. But I'm not kidding myself that I'm doing management.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry. I completely.
Yeah, no. So
distracted.
aerial gunning though. Okay, so like picture aerial gunning is flying around in a helicopter shooting hogs with a rifle. However, this is not paid Joe Blow with an AR-15, hiring out a helicopter in Texas to go shoot a couple boars and calling it a day. These are actual sharpshooters that know what the fuck they're doing. And, like this is the USDA Wildlife Services. Like these are, yeah. And it works for reducing high density populations to lower densities. You never get a full handle on them with just any of these methods. I mean, it's like every invasive species we talk to, there are multiple tools in the toolbox, and you almost always have to use multiples.
You gotta use them all. You gotta use them all.
The kind of other side of the aerial gunning coin is what we just call night shooting, which is hogs are mostly active at night, so you go out at night and use thermals or night vision or whatever and shoot them at night because you can see them. Those two methods, like I say, they're great for reducing large populations pretty quickly, but the cost benefit drops off as hog density declines, and then also is like depends on the terrain. Like you're not gonna do aerial gunning over a forest because you can't see through the trees, but it works great in like Texas or over ag fields, and then same thing with like night shooting. Like if the veg density on the ground is super thick, like it may not be that effective, and you may need to be work more on these other methods. So the other method, the main other method I should say, is trapping, and trapping can work pretty effectively as well. Typically the way you do it is you bait an area first with no trap. You just bait, and you get hogs to come from far and wide to the area. You want that whole sounder coming there regularly, or even multiple sounders if you can get them. And then you put your trap out. And maybe, depending on the way the trap is, we could go into different styles of traps. There's ones that are like hard panels with a big gate that clanks shut when you hit it with the remote. There's ones that are nets, like a drop net that's suspended in the air. There's other ones that they kind of they root under it, and then they can't get out because to get out they have to walk on the net. I like those ones a lot. They're passive, but they all work in different ways. But yeah, so you get the hogs coming to an area, you put the trap out, and then either if it's a triggered trap, when you have all the hogs, you trigger it, and then you have all the hogs in there, and then they get rehabilitated to a permanent end.
But a couple of 5.56.
Yeah. Honestly, often just a 22.
Oh, okay.
Because you're right there. You can aim. You're not. They're not running around like crazy, and you're 5 feet away from them, so you can put it. Right at the back of the head there.
This is where professionals come into play. Like
professionals.
Your most people are not going to just look at a trap at like 2 a.m. like, all my hogs is here. Hit the trap.
Yeah. That's also why I like the passive ones, that they root under the net and then they just are in there. There's no trigger to clank shut and spook hogs. You don't have to be checking you don't have to go check the trap. You don't have to go like be looking at your phone all the time either. If you've got like a fancy cell camera kind of setup, be like, oh, do I have all of them? Do I have enough of them? Like you just go check it later, and I think that's the whole sounder. Okay, we're good. And the ones that didn't get trapped, like they don't get trap shy. They don't get educated to avoid the trap because it never made a noise to scare them away. The other side of this that is pretty common, and it's kind of a sub method or just a way of making these techniques more effective, is the Judas pig, and we do this all the time in wildlife. Whenever we have to trap any wildlife, whether it's for research or like in the case of hogs, we're trying to kill them. We'll trap them, but we won't get rid of all of them. We might let one go with a little radio collar or some other way of tracking them, because they're going to tell us where the other hogs are. Remember, sounders are going to form. Pigs are social animals, so they're going to go find other pigs if you let one go. So like maybe if we get 12 pigs in a trap, we get rid of 11 of them and throw a radio tracker on that last one, and they'll lead us to the next group of hogs. And that works for both shooting and trapping. Okay, here's another good place to set up a trap, or here's a good place to set up and shoot at night. So yeah, that's a kind of a part of the method. The third method that's not super widely used yet. Yeah, there's potential there though. So the current product that is approved in some states is based on warfarin, which, if it sounds familiar to the listener, it's because it's a blood thinner. It's an anticoagulant. Like you can get prescribed warfarin based products for various heart. I don't fucking know. I'm not a blood wizard.
A doctor?
Blood problems.
A doctor. We call those doctors.
Blood wizard. But it's also the common active ingredient in a lot of like rodenticides,
Yes.
rat poison. And so when they first rolled this out, when they first announced this back in like 2017, people got very upset and worried about, rightly so,
Yeah, they were
worried
right
about like secondary consumption by scavengers and non-target animals and stuff. And so it kind of got shelved for a number of years. And they reworked the formula and restricted the use and came out with some like pretty stringent requirements on how you put it out. And so it's been approved for use in a couple states. I don't know how well it's being used or if people are actually using it. So the thing about warfarin though is pigs are really sensitive to it. So like, yeah, it's not great to put poison out everywhere. It wouldn't be the first thing I reach for. But you also have to consider like the stuff that's approved for hogs is a fifth the strength of rat poison. Like, so like the math that I saw is an average, like say 50-pound dog would have to eat 13 pounds of this stuff a day for 5 days for it to be lethal.
That
So
is
like,
a lot.
yeah. I'm still not gonna say like, oh yeah, let's chuck it all over the place. That'll solve the hog problem, but it's maybe not as scary as it was first made out to be. I don't know. Like it's another tool in the toolbox is all I'll say. The other one, which I have not heard anything about this in a long time, so it's probably sitting on a shelf at USDA somewhere. Sodium nitrite, which is another. I think it also works as a blood thinner anticoagulant, and it's similar to warfarin in that hogs are really, really sensitive to it, and most other animals, people included, are not. So you don't really have to worry about like secondary take or anything like that. It as long as, especially if you can figure out a delivery mechanism that's pretty much only going to let hogs, or at least something the size of a hog, at it. You don't have a ton to worry about. So maybe that's something that could work. It breaks down fairly quickly in the environment. The sodium nitrite especially. The warfarin maybe less so. But yeah. So where has this actually worked though? Like, does it? Yeah, it does. There's a couple of states that have claimed to eradicated feral hogs.
We did. Actually, ours
was
were
gonna say-
escapes. And then those were hunted down by aphis. So
Okay, yeah. Colorado, I'll say Colorado, North Dakota, and Utah are the only ones that I will say I know for sure had established breeding feral hog populations that we can say probably they're eradicated. USDA claims that there's 12 states that have eradicated feral hogs, but I can't find what 12, and I don't know that I buy that. Regardless, those are all going to be states that are kind of on that periphery of like feral hog invasion from the southeastern and proceeding elsewhere in the country from there. So like Mississippi's not eradicating feral hogs, Florida's not eradicating feral hogs, North Carolina's not eradicating feral hogs. It's just not going to happen. The states that got to it were able to do it because they got to it early.
and they crucially didn't have a culture of hog hunting.
They didn't have, yeah, right. They didn't have a culture of hog hunting. They didn't have legal hog hunting, or if they did, or it was just not addressed, they made it specifically illegal. Yeah. The only other places where we've done successful eradications are in isolated areas, and especially in the South, like where eradication is not going to be possible. We're talking about like islands, right? Barrier islands, marsh islands, places where there's not access to the broader feral hog meta population to keep recolonizing. We can manage a local, island eradication, and then you just have continued management to just keep any rogue migration from the mainland from reestablishing. So like St. Vincent's in Florida, I know, which is these are the ones I know of have all been part of National Wildlife Refuges, which is funny thinking about Missouri now, where the federal land is the problem. National Wildlife Refuges are also some of the only like island feral hog eradications that have been successful. So like St. Vincent's in Florida, which, fun fact, St. Vincent's also has sandbar deer on it.
Oh, that's weird.
Which you're allowed to hunt.
Sandbar native to Asia.
Yeah, there shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be there. But you can go to St. Vincent's National Wildlife Refuge in Florida and hunt them.
I wonder what that tag's like. Different question.
I don't know. Johosi Island in South Carolina is another one that recently eradicated them. Blackbeard Island in Georgia, I think, is ongoing, or at least it was before the shutdown. But yeah, that they all follow this kind of. This is the same pattern though. You start with aerial gunning and night shooting for the big population reductions. Then you do a lot of baiting and trapping to finish things off. And then you do, continued monitoring and management to catch any stragglers, and then, actually feel confident saying you've succeeded at the eradication. So it can work. It just takes time and effort and money. Oh, and one thing we didn't talk about. Do y'all remember a couple years ago? Again, the big news stories popping up. Do you remember the Canadian super pig?
Oh yes.
Yes.
Freak out. I'm assuming that those are just wild boar that got released in Canada for hunting, and
No, that's exactly what happened. So wild boar. I actually had a really great conversation with one of the biologists who's done a lot of work on feral hogs in Canada. So Saskatchewan is the home of feral hog invasion in Canada. And that is mostly from escaped domestics that then bred with some of the hog hunting operations that we discussed. And so that's the super pig. It's just an admixture.
It's just a wild boar.
Well, no, it's not. The wild boars are all gone now at this point in time. Feral hog boar hybrid admixtures. So the big difference between the Canadian feral hogs and the southern feral hogs is size, because the Canadians are up. It's pretty cold, so they have to get big and they have to get shaggy. That's a big difference. Yeah,
I don't know. I think Calvin and we could probably argue about this back and forth, but I'm almost to the point where I would say, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to say this. I think feral hogs are just wild boars at this point. I think they're the same fucking thing, because if you take a feral hog and you put it in Canada, it's going to turn into a wild boar pretty fucking quick. They're not different enough that I'm like, we need to treat them differently. They get treated exactly the same. There's actually been pretty interesting behavioral studies that feral hogs in North America act almost exactly the same as actual ass wild boars in their native range, in terms of what time of the day they're active, how they react to various disturbances, all this stuff. They're kind of they're still just wild boars.
I think that's not wrong. I think it's important to call feral pigs, though, to remember what is causing the invasion and what continues the invasion, and that is us.
Yeah,
that's us. They're not wild.
Yeah, no, that's fair. No, I'm not saying we shouldn't say the word. We shouldn't say feral hog. That would be silly. But from a biological and ecological impact standpoint,
there's very few differences between the two. Yeah, I'll give you that. Okay, all right. I think we've done enough on. We've done 2 hours on feral pigs. All right. Yeah. Any closing thoughts on feral pigs, Marissa? How do you feel about them boys now?
I really enjoyed this a lot. Listening to information that's actually useful to people right now about hogs. I was gonna say, if people are interested in like more environmental history stuff, there's a really interesting book called Feral Animals in the American South. It came out in 2016. I
hell yeah.
can't speak to it from a biology standpoint, but from a history standpoint, it's pretty solid.
Excellent.
I'm gonna find that.
Okay, I know
That sounds really interesting.
we just had AJ dumping on us about feral hogs. AJ, do you have any final thoughts on them hogs, them wild hogs?
Kill them all.
Yeah, hell yeah. My final thoughts are twofold. One, if you ever see videos of people just like renting a helicopter and shooting pigs, those, like especially in Texas, those are canned hunts. Those hogs are captured in other places and released for that hunter. If you ever sign up to do a feral hog hunt, you're probably hunting pigs that were captured somewhere else, driven to that ranch, and then released for you to hunt. Hunting does nothing against hogs, except for feed you. The other thing, the one thing that we can mention is that there are private trappers who will trap hogs, and then they actually take them to USDA slaughterhouses. They're slaughtered live, or they're taken to the slaughterhouse live, and then slaughtered. And then that's where wild boar products come from. Is those are usually just feral pigs. AJ, you're gonna have to speak to this, but I think that feral pigs have a reputation of not tasting as good as domestic swine, and that's due to boar taint. So big boars taste kind of nasty.
It can be. I mean, it just depends on the pig. Depends on what they've been eating. Age and sex makes a difference. Probably time of year too.
Well, shoot them small. That way you stop the invasion, when it's young, easier to kill, and also less boar taint. So kill them all, kill them small. Okay, hey, that's feral pigs. This has been excellent.
Marissa, thank you for joining
Absolutely,
us.
thank you for having
It was
me.
awesome having a guest, and we got to talk about modern hog crimes and medieval hog crimes.
Yeah.
It was great.
I'm always happy to talk about medieval hog crimes. It's my favorite topic.
It's a very interesting and sad topic.
Yes, yes.
So with that, we're going to call that an episode. Our next episode will be on Napoleonic warfare and vector-borne diseases.
Love it.